been having kind of a hard time, I guess, with my recorder here. Some of the videos I've been doing over the last couple of times here wasn't actually giving the highest audible sound here to the people that want to or choose to listen to my videos. But hopefully this one will actually come out okay. I actually wanted to do a video here on a subject that I've actually talked about in the past. And again, I covered a lot of good information, I think, in that video. It was a issue regarding interracial dating, relationships, that sort of thing. I actually had the pleasure to actually correspond with an individual off, off camera or off the internet or what have you, just through regular, correspondence, emails, whatever. And she is in, or, is, I guess, have serious feelings for an individual who happens to not be black. Again, I won't actually say what his race is, but I mean, but we pretty much, I'll just say that this person is just non-black. I'll just put it like that. But she is very afraid of the consequences of that she's gonna face should she come out and actually, I guess, divulge her information or let her folks know that she is wanting to actually make a serious commitment to this particular individual. And for the most part, she listened to, I guess, a couple of my videos that I did about it, and she really wanted to, I guess, talk to me or get my intake or um, my point of view on the particular subject as a whole. And again, I feel honored, for the most part, to actually for this person to actually come and talk to me. I won't give her a name or what have you, but I actually wanted to do a video just to kind of talk about the subject a little bit more in depth than I guess what I did with the last video. I know the last video that I did on it was a bit long. I don't know how long this one is going to take, but I'm just going to kind of go with the flow and let it see how it goes from there. Before I actually want to actually get into what I want to talk about as far as the stigmas and implications of interracial dating or relationships, I actually wanted to kind of break this up into 3 different segments. Okay, the first segment I want to talk about is why do you feel the need to actually want to date interracially? And the second segment I want to cover is what do you expect to get from this particular relationship that you can't get from dating or actually making a commitment to someone of your own race. Okay, and the last one is that be prepared to stand by and just be happy with your choice or your decision to date or marry or whatever, or to make a serious commitment interracially. So I'm just going to go ahead and just jump right on into this because I don't really want to prolong this and actually make this a long drawn out process. Okay, so the question is, why do you want, or I should say, this is just a question that I just posed and just throw out there to anybody. Why do you want to date interracially? Well, for the most part, we already know that there is a very live gender war that continues and will continue, and was like it's going to always be the hallmark of many debates here on YouTube, Facebook, just social media in a whole, as to why someone would actually choose to want to make a commitment or to be intimate with somebody who happens to not be their own race. Everybody has their own opinions. Everybody has their own, hang-ups. Everybody has their own ideas, on why one would actually choose to date interracially or make a commitment interracially. For this standpoint, I'm just going to go ahead and actually just say date interracially, because again, dating intimate or just being intimate interracially, I'll just put it like that because it can cover a whole multitude of different situations. But again, everybody has their own reasons as to why they want to be intimate or date interracially or whatever the case may be. And again, only you, as I said in my last video, only you will know the reason why you want to date interracially. The thing, what really goes, and I am a firm believer is that, and I always like to go to the Bible when I'm actually talking about things, because again, the things that we go through and we see in today's world actually does have strong ties and correlations to the Bible, and such like that. But the Bible does tell us and it reminds us that there's nothing new under the sun. Interracial dating, interracial dates, marriages, or whatever the case may be, is nothing new. Again, I think it actually what was actually the hallmark of this was actually, I would say, maybe after slavery. Actually, during slavery, to tell you the truth, because there's a lot of interracial intermingling going on, where the white man actually, his wife would secretly go and sleep with, some of the some of the men because, you know, she liked what she saw for the most part, and but in open, they would be deeply criticized for it, but when the lights are off, it's a whole different story. And I believe that was really the beginnings, in my opinion, of the IR, intermingling going on. After slavery, it was beginning to become a little bit more acceptable because, again, blacks were for the most part freed from, I guess, slavery. Laws were passed. Things were written into place to allow blacks to actually to be quote unquote free sovereign individuals. But of course, we know that that wasn't totally the truth because there were still some social implications behind that. But for the most part, they were to be seen as an equal. They can go out and do everything else. They can go out, date, whoever they want, when they want, how they want, or what have you. And I think, in my opinion, is that white women were actually, in a sense, they were thrilled at this because they were already fascinated by the black male physique, the sexual prowess, all these type of things that uh, is associated with sexuality as far as from a black male standpoint. White women, even to this day, they love that type of stuff. They love it. They love it when, they see a well-built man with six-pack abs walking through the gym or whatever the case may be, and they can have a boyfriend. They'll sit there, and the boyfriend will look at them while they're looking at the black man walking by, flexing his muscles or what have you. It's just something that's just innate. It's just something that just started, way back when, and it just continues on. There's just a fascination about it. It is. I mean, it's unexplainable. But pretty much, I would say after that, and as time went on, we began to see a lot more acceptance, even though it did not really become it wasn't really easily accepted in open arms when it first started. It was still something that should not have been done. I'll put it like that. Even though there was no laws in the books per se that a black man and a white woman couldn't get together, or a you know white man and a black woman couldn't get together, there was just still social norms that you just would not deviate from. Even though it wasn't written, we just understood that these type of relationships should not actually get started or what have you. But as the times went on, we start to see a lot more white women leaving their black men, or white women leaving their white men to develop relationships with black men. And of course, it caused a lot of, I guess, turmoil within the white relationship. But again, as we saw it, all it takes is just a couple of people to show that it's okay, and then it begins to become more socially acceptable. I think the biggest time that we actually saw, or in my opinion, the biggest time that I actually saw after researching this quite a bit, when we saw a lot of intermingling as far as interracial couples, was during the disco era. Again, I could be wrong, but I just did something just based on off of my research. But when they would get on the dance floor, even with Soul Train, even though Soul Train started as an all-black production, and stuff like that to give blacks pride in actually being black, and to be out there to put themselves out there, as the show began to progress and go on, you would start to see a little bit of trinkets of vanilla coming in there, and you know what I mean by vanilla, so don't get crazy. But, but then again, once you get all of this going on, then you start to really see the intermingling, or the IR, really beginning to really take off. So again, a lot of people have different reasons as to why they want to choose a mate, or that happens to be of a different race. But see, one thing about it is that in this day and time, we have a lot of people that are really making, or actually choosing to be in an IR relationship because of, I guess, past hurts from people who happens to be, of the same race. They don't want to repeat the cycle again. They want to actually, I guess, quote unquote, try something different to see what they want, to see what they like. And then they're going by, again, stereotypes. Now, when you're talking about stereotypes, to me, that is the really the biggest mistake that people make when they actually choose to date interracially. They're going by stereotypes pretty much of what they figure the norm is for a particular thing without actually really having any type of solid validity and really seeing if this is true or not. And actually, over the course of actually when I first came to YouTube, and everything, I would see all of this going on, but I didn't really know that it was just that big of a deal, where, and I knew that it was beginning to become a big of a deal when you would have people insulting each other because of their personal dating preferences. But I mean, the sad part about it is that, who you choose to date or be intimate with is your business, but the issue is that when you would have one person making or actually assuming or wanting to bring it across as if dating someone outside of your race is the way to go because you can't find any comfort or satisfaction within your own race. And of course, that's where I believe the gender war actually really started. It had to have it start from somewhere. But anytime you actually sit there and use these type of generalizations, and they don't even have to be all that true, it's just the fact that you're painting something to be what you think it is when it's not really all that much from what you say it is or how great you want to make it out to be. But we have a lot of people that jump on the bandwagon and want to follow this particular pattern of thinking where they are portraying that in order for you to be happy, you have to, look for acceptance and look for love outside of your own race. Now, the person who I was actually corresponding with, they've already made their choice that they want to do this, but the reasonings that they actually gave, I'm not trying to judge anybody or anything for their choices because they're free to actually think however they want. It's them that has to deal with that or the ramifications of that, not me. But I think it's a bit questionable. This particular individual, they were raised in a middle class, family or whatever, and lived in the suburbs all their lives and everything, and they say that they actually wanted to date, they had friends that actually in high school or whatever, they wanted to, I guess give black men a chance, that sort of thing. One of these type of ish individuals. So, because of peer pressure and friends and everything like that, she went ahead and actually wanted to do the quote unquote date the black man and and see how it goes. And for the most part, she really was not all that, I guess, pleased with the outcome. And that's fine. But see, one thing about that I will have to say is that you have to really be careful on how you actually approach situations, and how you actually choose to engage into, different type of things, just to see how it is. Now, the way that this information was brought across to me, it was as if she was actually trying to do what, black men a favor, I guess. And she may not have meant it like that, but that's certainly how it actually was brought across, which is something that me and that particular way of thinking do not get along with. We don't have a good relationship, but I digress. But the fact about it that she wanted to actually, see what it was, how it is to date a black man, because she doesn't want to just automatically jump to, her, or what she really wants, which is someone outside of her race, but she just wanted to actually see what it's like to actually date someone within her race. So they did and everything, and for the most part, she, reported that she did not, it wasn't really what she expected, mainly because, again, of the old school mentality that she said that the black men have, which is, of course, hit it, quit it, do all the smooth talk, try to, play women for tools and everything like this, which, of course, you can't argue with that. I mean, she has a valid point. I mean, like I said, I'm not going to sit there and bash her because, again, that's her observation. She experienced that because she was the one that went on the date with her friends or what have you, with her, whatever. But, after, I guess, trying this a couple of times or whatever, she pretty much said, what, she relates more to folks who are non-black and really has a stronger connection and a tie with folks who are non-black than she does with her own kind for the most part. One thing that I actually noticed here, and like I said, I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth, but usually your environment sometimes really does have a has strong ties with who you actually want to associate yourself around and who you actually want to later on in life be with. This person was actually raised in the suburbs, and pretty much had everything. I would say they had a very comfortable life. I guess, and for the most part, even though they were actually in the suburbs, she told me, her background. She has a lot of white friends, but I mean, the fact about it is that she had more black than white. I mean, they're just, it's just one of those type of situations. But for the most part, she felt that, with her background and everything that she's gone through and the type of person she is, she feels that she has a strong connection with other folks who happens to not be black. So that's the reason why she actually wants to use that as to the reason why she wants to date interracially. Now, again, what I will say here for the black men is that we have got to really stop really putting ourselves out there to be ignorant individuals. I'm going to digress a minute and kind of harp on the fellows a little bit. We claim and we want, or we say that we want to actually be able to be seen as, sophisticated, I guess intelligent individuals. But see, when I asked this young lady, like, why, how come you don't really want to see yourself with, and I'm not trying to convince her to go with a black person because she happens to be black, but it's just the fact that I was just wondering. I asked her, well, why don't you want to really, I mean, because I was trying to tell her not all men are like the ones that you went out on a date with. And she was like, she's just tired of the mentality of black men. And I asked her, could you please expound upon that? Well, she was saying for the most part, the men that I guess that she was set up with, I don't know how her friends actually, how they went out on a date. I don't know if it was through a setup or whatever, but she was saying for the most part, they approach her with no communication skills. And I had to write this stuff down. They don't really have any type of, I guess, charisma, she said. And they are just, she says, as she put it, socially inept. They don't really have any type of way of actually really carrying on a conversation. I guess that still falls into the communication skills part. But those were the reasons why what she actually told me. And when I actually went back and I wanted to really think about this thing, she really had a from the individuals that she was talking about, because I'm like, okay, I hope she's not talking about all men, because I happen to be black and I don't fall into any of those categories. But when she actually said those particular things here, I could understand why she would actually think that way. I mean, because when you look at it these days, especially with some of the buffoonery and everything that you see going on in society through social media, and everything like that, you do see a lot of people a lot of black men who fall into that category. Now, my thing about this as well, I was like, well, I said, let me guess. I said, were they wearing sagging pants? She said, well, yeah. I said, well, okay, well, I said, well, my question to you is, okay, knowing the type of person that you are, your background and everything, where you were raised, if you knew that this was actually going to be kind of like where this conversation was going to go, that you weren't going to be interested, then why would you go ahead and continue on with something that you really, from the get-go, know that you was not going to enjoy? And her answer was, just to make her friends happy. Now, my issue is that with this particular person, she really has a lot of living. Well, she's not old person. I mean, she's still, fairly young. One thing that we have to understand is that dating for women is a bit different than it is for men. just like sex for men is very different from it is from a woman, because with a woman it's all about emotions. With a man it's purely physical. We are physical beings. That's how we actually interact, and that's how we actually deal with things. We want to see the physical. We get aroused by the physical. Women get aroused by the physical too, but it's more. It's with them. It's a bit deeper because emotions become the all hallmark. That's what they actually. That's the way. That's how they're governed. That's what they're ruled by. But I asked her, I'm like, well, if you already knew that you was not going to actually get a good evening or a good conversation out of this, then I would have said, if I were you, I would have just told him, you know what, I'm not interested, but thank you for your time, but I'm just not interested, and just would have moved on. But with this particular one, she's actually more interested in really pleasing her friends, I guess, and really what their friends are going to say or how, whatever, than whatever else. But like I said, for each his own. So, and again, I had posed the question, why do you want to date interracially? She felt that she didn't have a strong connection with, black folks, her fellow black man, that sort of thing. And like I say, with most people, they would get offended by that. I wouldn't get offended by that because again, what you want in a relationship is totally up to you. But again, the reasons for wanting it, that's where we actually run into the issues that we're actually having today as far as the gender war, which is something that we can definitely do without. I want to now to move on to my second part of this particular one, where I was asking, what do you want from the relationship? Okay, so you've already decided that black men are not for you. So what are you looking for out of, a relationship with someone who happens to be non-black that you can't get from someone who's black? And of course, she came up with her typical answers. Well, my standard of living, financially compatible, education, be able to be taken care of, just equal partnership, just the typical answers for someone who really does not want to associate themselves with, with a black man. And again, I had to pose the question to her again. Well, don't you think that you do have some black men that are financially compatible? When I had to actually back up a minute, I had to ask her, why is it that, and I said, I'm not accusing you personally, but I'm like, women who think like you, why is it so important that a man actually has to be balling or actually has to be able to make as much money than you do or more in order for you to even consider them to be a suitable mate? And she was taken back. She didn't really see this question coming, and I can tell by the, how she actually responded. But it has her basic definition, and I have to kind of sum it up with her basic answer, I should say, and I would have to sum it up with is that women, have got to take a stand. They have got to make their own choices. They've got to, take care of themselves. They got to be able to look after themselves, not depend on a man. All of these type of things. And I had to sit back and say, okay, well, here we go again. Here we go again. So, I listened to her here. I heard her out because I don't never want to be rude and, cut someone off. But I said, well, your answer is the typical answer that we would actually get from, a particular concept, and that's called feminism. One thing that I do not like about feminism is the impression that it gives most women. And the impression that it gives women is that they're entitled to different things. I mean, the whole time that I was actually there listening to her, give her reasons as to what she's looking for out of the relationship, it kind of tailored off into the fact about that, she wants someone who is, on her level, all of these typical things, and that, who will listen to her and everything like this, and I'm like, well, you can get that from someone who's happens to be black. I said, not every, and I had to remind her, not every man that you're that you want to be with happens to have the attitudes and the communication skills of the ones that you went out on the date with. And see, one thing about it is that she's been around this attitude, and I'm pretty sure that all of that has a lot to do with her friends, maybe, you know, social media too. You know, that has a lot to do with this particular thing. But I was like, you got to understand something. I'm like, well, you have got to really drop the attitude, not the attitude, but drop the concept that you can, that it's like you're doing black men a favor by wanting to give us a chance. Because I said, to me, that is very insulting. I mean, I wasn't trying to, come off on some sort of tirade or, disrespectful rant. But I had to remind her, look here, I mean, understand something. Men can actually go ahead and do the same things that you do. I mean, like I say, even though we do admit in today's world, women do have a higher income than men because of issues regarding discrimination and everything else in the workplace, especially by women who actually are in charge of hiring. And plus, again, we have a lot more colleges that are actually enrolling a lot of more black women at a faster rate than black men. But the fact about it is that you got to understand is that we too don't have to settle for you. And I wasn't trying to come off on some, disrespectful rant, but I was like, well, all of your explanations that you're giving me, for the most part, in my opinion, are a bit on the selfish side. Everything that you're giving me, you're saying that it's you want this, you want that. What about what the man would want? Because the last time I really thought about it or seen, a relationship is 50-50. But I digress. But I was like, well, we got to get over this thing with this entitlement issue as far as what you feel you deserve. Because you got a lot of good men out there who are law-abiding citizens, don't have any real jail records, don't have any felonies, convictions, or anything like that. Just very good, outstanding, productive citizens who are all about taking care of their business as well, and yet still they become overlooked. And the reason why they're overlooked is because, again, for the most part, just generally speaking, not all women, but most women opt to go for the bad boy types, the ones who they feel that, will add some sort of style to their to what they're working with. But I digress. She was like, well, I want this is what I want from a relationship. I want him to treat me right, this, that, and the other. Well, to tell you the truth, these days there is no perfect relationship. There is no perfect man. Black, white, Latino, Asian, Filipino, whatever. There is no good man. I mean, no perfect man. There are a lot of good men out there, but there is no perfect man. And I had to remind her of that. The average man these days earns a lot less than the women that they're actually, attached to or associated with. So really, when you sit there and really say that you want someone who is on your level, both, financially and educationally, you pretty much now kind of really excluded a whole bunch of other people, good men, that really may not have what you say is quote unquote necessary for you, but they would actually compliment you quite well. And as I was bringing this information across to her, she really could not say too much about it, but she just kept harping on the fact that of what she deserves. I've been through this. I've spent all this many years in college, and I'm not going to settle for this. Then we as men, we're not asking, and I told her, we're not asking for you to settle. Because when you look at that and say that you're settling, to me, again, that's very offensive, because it's like we're not good enough for you. Now, I can come around and say, okay, well, I have a few degrees too. I don't want to settle for women like you. And again, that didn't go over well because she got offended. I say, well, now you know how it feels. It's not about settling. It's about actually being prepared to really just go out and discover and explore what is really important in a relationship. Yes, finances and everything and compatibility, all of that is important. But you cannot sit there and say that you are entitled to certain things because of what your social economic status was while you were growing up, who you associate yourself around, or what have you. It's not about that. It's about, finding who you are truly happy with. And honestly, I can see why this particular person is really having a hard time finding someone, because the standards are just way too high. Way too high. And in order for, and I told her, I said, well, I have to apologize, but I was like, you're going to really, in a sense, have a quite a journey finding someone who is really going to accept that attitude that you're entitled and that this is what you need, and not really put what they need into the equation as well. And the fact that you're not willing to compromise, because you're not going to be able to meet everything, or have a man that meets everything on your checklist. It's not possible. And if you do find one, you better believe there's some more other stuff behind that, because everybody's trying to look, and trying to find someone who is compatible for them. And they're having to find that they're having to let some things go, or kind of bypass some things in order to get to that, to get to that particular individual who they feel that is, who complements them. But she was like, what do she want from the relationship? She wants this, she wants that, she wants this, well, and never really, in a sense, took in account what he may need. Like I said, that's the reason why I think that's the downfall, really. And I hate that concept of women ruling the world, and women, doing this, that, and the other, going out and doing things on their own. Of course, so do men. Men have to do that too, because not every man is in a relationship. So we have to go out there and provide for ourselves as well. But it's just the fact that we have this warped sense of what it means to really go out to look for a relationship, and really what it means to really be in a relationship. We still haven't really mastered and really come to terms and grips of what this thing is all about. Because the way that she was speaking is like it's all one-sided. And you really can't get in or really find a decent person when everything is actually is one-sided. Again, the typical responses is not something new that I've already heard it all before. But, for, respect's sake, I wanted to go ahead and just get her, I'm understanding what she's saying, don't get me wrong. But it's the fact about it is that it's more to it than what she's saying. They have to look at also too, the man has needs too that needs to be met. And not once during that whole conversation did she ever think about or consider what would be the needs of a man. Only for the sake of actually but the only time she would actually mention about the man is pretty much how grotesque, how disrespectful, how all this, that, and the other they are. Not taking into account that not all black men are that way. Now, the last part that I actually wanted to talk about, which I think is really, the most important, is to the fact about you being prepared to stand by and be happy with your decision. When she first started corresponding with me from the video that I did about interracial dating or what have you, she was so fearful about how her family, how, her friends are going to react if she happens to bring home or bring somebody around them who happens to not be black. Because, again, most of her friends or what have you have black boyfriends, husbands, or whatever the case may be. So she's afraid that, if she chooses to go with her heart and choose to date or see somebody who happens to not be black, that she will somehow lose her quote-unquote blackness. Now, this part of the conversation was very interesting. Very interesting. And it really is something that I think that really should be talked about. I mean, it is talked about, I'm pretty sure, on social media, but it's not really given the full attention that I think it's deserved. And the attention that is actually given is not the type of attention that really should be expressed, or actually that should be actually displayed, or I guess talked about in the way that it is talked about. But I'll go ahead and do my best to put what I have to say to it, and just kind of leave it at that. But who you choose to date is in no way, shape, or form going to change your skin color. Okay? When you were born black, it doesn't matter who you marry throughout your lifetime, who you choose to be intimate with, you are still, at the end of the day, going to be seen as a black woman. The fact about it is that you are still unsure of what you really want. I mean, you put on this display about I've given this particular person a try. I've given black men a try. They're not coming up off nothing. They're not really what I want to be with. But yet still, you are still afraid to make that step into really being with who you really want to be with. So that lets me know that you are really not in a really in any type of predicament of talking about going out and really seeking some sort of long-term relationship, because you're still not really prepared with the consequences or the outcomes of what's going to happen if you happen to bring someone around your folks and your friends who happens to not be black. And see, that's the typical attitude and a typical thing that I see with some black women. They stay up there and they have this feminist attitude, but yet still when it comes times to really, take that same attitude, I guess, and kind of, I don't know, kind of suppress it a little bit and actually kind of, or actually I shouldn't say suppress it, I should say when it actually comes time to walk the walk, and you're talking a lot of talk, but when it comes times to walk that walk, you become a little bit unsure. And when I express this information over to her, I'm like, well, even though I cannot sit there and say, what you should do or who you should go after or whatever, because at the end of the day, you have to be prepared to live with that decision yourself. But I was like, I don't really think, and this is me personally, I don't think that you're really even ready to really even consider going out and dating interracially, because you're still concerned about what other folks are going to say. Confident folks don't really owe explanations to anybody about their actions, because they are confident, meaning that they've thought it through, they thought about the good and the bad, and everything else in between, and then after the end of the day, after thinking about that, they still found out that that's what they want to do. That's the way confident people actually approach situations. The fact that you're afraid to even bring someone to an innocent party or anything like that happens to not be black lets me know that you're not really ready to really date interracially or be intimate interracially. You're still talking about the same typical things that black women talk about there is no good black man and all this other type of stuff, but yet still you're not really willing to really stand by totally on your decisions and defend your actions about that, and proving that by bringing around your friends or family someone who happens to not be black. I'm not saying that talking to this particular individual was a waste of time, because again, anytime I have the opportunity to speak with someone who actually want to talk about an issue from my videos, I think it's a great idea to really get to interact socially and get to know someone. I never really want to pass up an opportunity to do something like that. But there's a lot of things that really needs to be done and really needs to be considered with this particular individual. Whether or not I mean, because, and also too, another thing is that she's more focused on the feelings and everything of others to really, she's lost sight of what is going to make her happy. I don't care, if someone doesn't like who I bring around them, because I'll be quick to say it doesn't matter what you think. I respect you enough to really want to bring them around you, but at the end of the day, it's not about what you think. I'm the one that's going to be sleeping with this person or, being around this person. You don't have to, and if you don't want to come around, that's fine too. She's afraid that her friends are going to disown her. Her parents may have some, and it's just like she's afraid that she won't be considered, a sister. Like I said, depending on, it doesn't matter who you date or whatever, you're still a sister in my eyes. You may be a confused one, but that's just me talking, but that's just my opinion. But we really have to understand and know that the social aspect of dating interracially, it's going to be a popular subject that's going to be talked about for years to come. Because every day now, especially on Hollywood and TV in Hollywood, you're seeing every black man with someone, well, almost every black man with someone who happens to not be white or black. Even in our television, in our movies, you having black producers and everything like Tyler Perry and everybody like that, who actually started out, with having black on black, plays and movies and stuff. And next thing, now he's moving into the interracial thing. And like I said, it's something that, again, it doesn't surprise me, but it's just funny that, again, that we're starting to see this now, because we're now, in my opinion, we're at the height of all of this gender war thing, and a lot of it has ties and strong things, strong beginnings with interracial dating. Some people just can't accept the fact that one person want to be, intimate with someone in a different race. And really, and I guess before I actually became educated and actually began to really understand the thought process behind all this, I was actually thinking the same way. Why would a black person want to go and be with someone who happens to not be black? Because I was, I'm not racist or anything, but this is before I actually came into the knowledge that I have now, where I actually went out and experienced the world, through military. I was in the military and all this type of stuff, and I really growed up a lot, college educated. So I was actually exposed to a lot more other things, than I was when I was actually younger. So when I actually went out and began to live life, I began to really change my viewpoint on how relationships are supposed to be. And again, who you choose to be with, that's totally on you. I cannot sit there and tell you, you're black, so you should stay with someone who's black. Because again, you still have a lot of people that have that old school thinking like that. And I'm not telling this particular individual that since she's black, she needs to stick with someone's black. It's the fact that she really needs to evaluate her choices and really begin to really understand and really begin to question, is the fact that I'm really wanting to be with a black person, or a white person, or whoever, anybody who's non-black, is that worth, me actually losing a friend or losing my blackness, as she say? Like I said, you're not going to lose anything because you're going to be black regardless. So it's just the fact that really there's a lot of growing up, a lot of maturity that still needs to be done. And if I was her, I would really rethink and really just hold off on really trying to make a commitment with anybody right now until you evaluate and really understand and really begin to come into knowledge about what's really important to you. Because all of this stuff about, black men are not on her level, she wants someone who is actually, financially compatible with her and all this type of stuff, that's a quick way for you to wake up to a cold bed by yourself for the rest of your life. Because, again, money isn't everything, even though we know that it's needed. It doesn't make a relationship. And if it does start off with money making a relationship, that means that lets you know you better jump ship, because that relationship is not going to last long. Because in any relationship, whether it's a marriage or whatever, dating or whatever, money does have a play in it somewhere or another. And if you're with somebody just because you feel that they happen to be financially compatible with you, then you're going to be disappointed at some point. Because I guarantee you, they're not going to be balling all the time. And it may be sometime where you may have to carry their weight, and vice versa. You may lose your job and they may have to carry your weight. That's why a lot of people are getting into these unions and they don't really understand the true meaning of what a lifetime commitment is all about. They're doing it because of the lust of the eyes. This person looks good in jeans. She has a nice Coke bottle figure. He's light skinned, he's beautiful, and they're tiger. What does that have to do with a lifetime commitment? That doesn't have anything to do with decision making as far as their mentality. Because you can look at somebody who actually looks good in a pair of jeans or whatever, they open their mouths, they don't even know how to carry on a conversation. They may know how to put themselves together well, but that's all that it is. It's just a facade, because they certainly don't have anything going on the inside. And they can be some of the most selfish people that you will really want to meet. But like I said, I just want to kind of put this up there, and post this out there, to let everybody know, again, there's nothing, in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with IR relationships. You just have to really discover and really know, okay, is this something that you really want to do? Because if it is, then there would not be a need to really have any type of unsurety as far as what other people are going to think. The fact that you are actually wanting to, that you're really wanting other folks to accept them lets me know right there that you're not sure yourself that this is the right person or this is the right thing that you want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that. As always, if you want to leave your thoughts and opinions, that's fine too. But as always, be respectful. All right? Peace out.